Majestic Lighting Design, Sales and Consultation Training. This is Joshua Crampton, and I wanted to ask you a question. When you get a new lead, when Majestic Lighting gives a designer a new lead, the question is this: when is the job sold? Because you have to determine that to know how to be successful. You know, Majestic Lighting has been in business for over 20 years, and I've spent countless hours and thousands of consultations perfecting exactly what works. And the answer to the question, when is the job sold? That answer is when you have built a bond and a trusting relationship with that client. And you do not do that at the house. You do that prior to showing up. And the way that you do that is by outperforming the competitors. And then the way that you do that is by understanding what your competitors are doing. So let's go through the normal workflow of what the perfect light or unique outdoor lighting or, any of the large competitors, any of the competitors in Houston or any other city for that matter. Let's go through the workflow. Potential client gets on Google, types in landscape lighting. They see a list of companies. Sometimes they're in Google Maps, sometimes they're on Google. They search for a lighting company and they get a list of them with phone numbers. And they start at the top and they start calling. They call in, a lady on the other end, an appointment setter, answers the phone. It's very impersonal. It's very professional. Where do you live? What's your address? What's your email? When can you have when are you available? The potential client then says Friday at 5:30. The lady on the phone says, okay, great. John or David or Bob or somebody is going to be there Friday at 5:30 to give you a consult. And then they email them a reminder and nobody talks to, and then they get off the phone and that's it. The appointment is set. They called, they opened up Google, they typed in landscape lighting, they called the first number on the list, an appointment setter answered the phone, gets their data, sets the appointment, and gets off the phone. Next thing you know, Bob, David, Bill, somebody is showing up to that house who they've never spoken to before, who they've never met, and they don't have a relationship with, to try to take their money. That's what's standard. And then what happens is they do this 3 to 4 times. And so 3 to 4 random salesmen shows up at their house from 3 to 4 different companies, gives them a paper consultation and a paper estimate, and then leaves. That's it. And then the husband and the wife sit there one night with the 3 to 4 quotes, the paper quotes in front of them, and chooses whichever one they felt most comfortable with or whichever one is the cheapest. That is the standard industry workflow for all residential services as of today. And that is the exact opposite of how a client will experience Majestic Lighting Design if you follow these protocols and you listen to this training. And here's the telltale sign. And I ask this question, or I make this statement. Here's how to know if you're doing it correctly. If you go to a new lead's house and you show up to do the consultation and you ring the doorbell and they come out, the husband and wife comes out, and if they say, nice to meet you, you have not done your job. You have failed. And what should happen is that when you ring that doorbell, they both come out excited and they say, nice to finally meet you. And the reason why they're excited to meet you is because they called 4 other companies, and every single phone call except the one to Majestic Lighting was dry, short, and uncaring. However, when they called Majestic Lighting, an appointment setter did not answer the phone. Somebody in management answered the phone and asked them 1,000 questions. Got to know them, found out how long they lived in the house, where'd they move from. Do they want lights in the front and the back? Is there lights? Is there a house on their street that has lights that they can send us pictures of that they like? Have they ever had lights before? When you're on the phone with a new lead, there is literally a million questions you can ask them to keep them in dialogue, to keep them on the phone. And then what happens is after the management answers the phone and talks to the client in deep dialogue about the project, they inform the potential client, that they are connecting them with a dedicated designer who will also call them to discuss the project, and that the manager is going to brief them on the conversation that they had and forward any relevant data. Next thing you know, within 10 to 15 minutes, a designer calls them and engages them in a relationship and asks them questions and, tell me what you're looking for. Have you ever done this before? We're so thankful you called. Oh, we've got clients in your neighborhood, or, oh, I just did a house down the street from you last month. And next thing you know, they've had friendly they've had friendly dialogue with two staff members of Majestic Lighting Design before anybody ever showed up to their house. And you have to understand, why is that impactful? Why does it matter? It matters because they called 3 other companies and all of them were the same. Hi, thank you for calling so-and-so lighting company. How can I help you? And the client says, oh, I want to get a lighting consultation. They say, great, what time would be good? Okay, Thursday at 5:30? Great, Dylan's going to be there. And that's it. They get off the phone. There's no dialogue. There's no care. There's no empathy. There's no compassion. There's no interest. And interest is what you have to present to the client for them to feel loved. Imagine if you ever went on a date. Imagine if you went on a blind date, never talked to this person, never met him before, and you show up to the date and you don't ask him any questions at all. You're not interested in them at all. You're just interested in getting what you want from the date, which may be a one-night stand, something like, something unmeaningful. Right? So next thing you know, the girl sitting across from you on the blind date feels like you're not interested in her, feels like you just want something from her, feels like you don't care about her, feels like you're just there to get something from her. Does that sound familiar? Because that's what's happening when you don't follow this protocol. You don't follow this procedure, is you show up to a client's house without any relationship, without any conversation, without any dialogue. All you've done is talk to them for 4 to 5 minutes to set the consultation, and maybe even less than that. And you are just like all the other salesmen, showing up trying to get something from them. So therefore, they're on the defense. They know you're there to take their money. But if you invested incredible amounts of time with them, and both of them, if it's a wife calling, say, okay, well, I can be there Friday at 5:30, but I would really like to talk to you and your husband on a 3-way call about the project before I get out there, because you're both going to have different questions to ask. I always say, well, I'd like to, if the husband is calling and it's just him, I'll dialogue with him and I'll figure out if his wife needs or not needs to be involved. I'll invite it. I'll say, well, sir, what I'd really like to do is, if you think she's going to have any opinions or creative opinions or concerns, I'd love to have a 3-way call with you and your wife prior to coming out to do the consultation, so I can get to know you both. And that is the key phrase that you have to use, so that I can get to know you both. And so lead calls in. Let's just go through a normal workflow. Okay, if you're taking notes, you can start with step A. This is the workflow for Majestic. This is what the client should experience. Step 1, they call our office. They have a meaningful and deep conversation with whoever answers that phone. Step 2, B, they're forwarded to a designer who then calls them and has a 30-minute, 40-minute conversation to get to know them and to find out what it is that they're looking for and get on the same page with them with budget and explain to them that you're there to earn their business. You're there to do a design. You can't do a design without a budget ahead of time. You have to talk to them and find out where their comfort level is. And that's why whenever you give a final quote, you're sitting at a dining room table and you slide across the written documentation with the quote on there, you say the sentence, I'm not sure if this price is within the range that you hoped or planned for, but I am here to negotiate and to earn your business. That's what you say. Whenever you're on the phone with them setting the consultation, you'll set the consultation for a date and a time. And prior to that, you'll find out from them if they're interested in a demonstration at night or not. If you're on the phone with them and you explain that you can either come out in the daytime and do a design with orange yard flags, where you'll mark where every light goes one by one with them with orange yard flags, or you'll come out in the evening at sunset and do the same thing with the design, but after the design is complete and all the orange yard flags are put out, when the sun sets, you'll set up some temporary lights for them to see prior to making a purchase. So when you're on the phone with them, you explain, we do free demos. And, I was on the phone with a guy last week and I mentioned that we do free demos. And he says, no, I don't need a free demo. I'm not interested in it. We've had lighting before. We know what it looks like. We know that we want it. I don't need a free demo. Just come out in the daytime and do the design. Prior to that, I was on the phone with a lady from Kingwood. And when I brought up the free demo, she got all excited. She had never had professional lights before. And she got it, it's like test driving a Corvette before you buy it. It's fun. And so I explained the demo and how much fun it is. And, oh, we'd love to see the lights. We'd love to have a demo. This is amazing, right? So you offer the free demo and explain what it is. And then you say, I can come out in the daytime and do the design flag by flag, light by light, or I can come out at night and show you the lights before you purchase. That's the format. And prior to coming out, and then when you're doing that call, while you have them on the phone, you're going to say, okay, well, I'd like to have a three-way call with you and your husband. If it's a woman, you're going to say, if you think your husband's going to have any questions, or you think your husband's going to have any creative input, or you think your husband may have any concerns. If it's a husband, you're going to say, well, I'd love to schedule a three-way call with you and your wife. If you think she will have any input, opinions, or concerns. So you're not saying, I need to meet with both decision makers. That pisses people off, especially if it's a woman that leads the home. And I'm telling you that this is real. In our culture of the feminist culture, you can piss a woman off. If you're on the phone with a woman and she calls you and she's setting the appointment and she is the lead, if you get on the phone with a woman and you go to set the consult and you say, okay, well, I'll come out Friday at 5:30 or tomorrow at 5:30, but I need to make sure that your husband is there. You will piss her off. She will hang up on you and leave a bad review. This literally happened before. Is that a lady called in, I did the initial call with her, I sent the lead to the consultant, I called the consultant and told the consultant what kind of woman she is, that she's a business owner, she's the leader, la-da-da-da. He wasn't sensitive. So he gets on the phone with her and he says some kind of rude comment about, okay, well, I can come out and do a consult, but I need your husband to be there, or both decision. And she goes, well, I am the decision maker. She got pissed off. Then she hung up on him. She called our office back, had some nasty words to say to me, and then she goes online and leaves us a nasty review on Google stating that we're rude and so you have to be sensitive, especially if you're talking to a woman. And when you're talking to a man, you don't want to take him out of his leadership power by saying, okay, sir, I can meet you tomorrow at 5:30, but I need to make sure both decision makers are there. Majestic Lighting does not use the wording in the language, both decision makers. We don't consider that. There's not to consider. What we consider is that there's two people that may have input. So when you're setting a consultation, you never, ever say both decision makers. You say, well, I want both you and your husband or you and your wife to be there because you both may have concerns or creative input. So when we give you a lead, you call the lead and you find this information out. You find out who the decision maker is by asking questions. And one of those ways is getting on the phone with the lead and saying, have you ever had lights before? Do you think you want front and back? If you were to do a count, how many lights do you think you may need? Are you interested in pure white, classic golden yellow? Are you interested in multicolor lights, right? Do you want this on a Wi-Fi timer or a photocell timer? Okay, like how soon do you want to install the lights, right? You're asking them a million questions, and during that relationship building phase, you're going at some point to say, okay, well, I can come out at this time. When can I meet you? And also, I'd love it if, your partner can be there too, your wife, because she or he may have creative input or concerns or questions. So you're telling them that you want both people to be there, not because you need two decision makers. That's rude. You're saying because both people may have creative input. So when you're setting these consultations, going through these steps and using these languages will keep you safe and ensure that you sell the job and navigate the dynamics of a husband and wife. Because there are dynamics going on. When you're there to do a consultation and you're walking through the yard and you're putting orange yard flags and you're marking the design with them, the husband's going to be thinking about price and structure and security and installation quality. The wife's going to be thinking about design and color of the lights and where the lights are going to go. And you have to cater to both people while you're there. This one consultation, I'm standing in the front yard with a client. I'm standing in the front yard with a husband and wife, and we put out 20-something flags. We're walking around. They're both asking me questions differently. The husband looks at me and says, well, how much is it again per light? And I said, it's 3 to 5 per light, but don't worry about that because, I'm here to earn your business, and that's just our starting price. And the more lights that you guys get, the more power I have to lower the price. And I said that to him, and he goes, oh, okay. Next thing I know, the wife looks at me and she goes, well, what color are the lights? And I said, well, we have 3 options. We have pure white, multicolor, and we have the classical golden yellow, warm white. And then the next thing I know, the husband looks at me and says, well, what kind of timer mechanism is it? And I responded to him and I said, okay, well, sir, we have photo cells. We have a Wi-Fi transformer and timer option if you want it connected and app controlled, right? And then next thing I know, the wife looks at me and says, some question about design, like, well, how many lights do you think it's going to be too bright, right? And I answer her question. I say, okay, well, the where the lights are placed is where they need to be for design completion. So you have a complete design, but we have 35 watt bulbs and 50 watt bulbs. So if you think we're going to install the 50 watt because that's standard. And if you think that's too bright, we'll come switch all the bulbs out for the 35 watt bulbs. And she goes, oh, okay, cool. And next thing I know, the husband looks at me and says, well, how deep do you bury the wires? And I said, oh, well, we go 6 to 8 inches down and we do all the work by hand with no machinery so we don't destroy your yard. And oftentimes, since our installation crew also owns a landscaping company, Jose, they will leave your yard cleaner and nicer than the way they found it. And then next thing I know, the woman looks at me and she asks another design question. So as I'm standing in the front yard, I'm catering to both of their questions and concerns. And this is why the format is when we give you a lead, you contact the lead, you discover in that conversation, in that dialogue, who the decision maker is, who's the one interested in the lighting, and you set the consultation for both people to be there so they can both put creative input. Not because there's 2 decision makers. You don't use that language. You say, because I know you're both going to have creative input or concerns and questions. And then before you even go out and before you end that conversation, you suggest and ask again for a 3-way call between both parties so that you can answer questions and hear the questions that both people have. So that would look like you do your initial call with the lead, you establish the relationship, you show that person that you're interested in them, that you care about them, you have 1,000 questions to ask, and then you set the consultation, and then you say, oh, by the way, I would love to have a 3-way call with you and your partner or your wife or your husband before the consultation, because I want to answer both your questions and get any creative input that both of you would have before I come do this consult. Now you've had your initial call with the lead. You've scheduled a 3-way call with the client or a video call with the client and their wife or husband. You've had that video call, which lasts 30-something minutes. You've built a relationship with them. They've seen your face. They've heard your voice. They've heard your ideas, right? They've sent you pictures of their house, right? So they've sent you pictures of other houses they like, right? And now you show up to the consultation. You have a relationship with both of them. You've talked to both of them. They've heard your voice. They know who you are. You ring the doorbell and they both come out all excited. So nice to meet you. Finally, nice to put a face behind a name, or so nice to, if you did a video call with them, then it's going to be so nice to finally meet you. And that's how you know you won. That's when the job is sold. They are never buying lighting. They are buying you. They're buying the company. They're buying the fact that we've been in business 20 years. They're buying the fact that we have no negative reviews on Google. They're buying the fact that you cared about them, that you spent incredible amounts of time with them before you showed up, that you're not there just to get their money, that they understand what the pricing structure is, and that you're there to do a design and get a price to them that meets their budget, right? And that's when the job is sold. So Majestic Lighting, we do things different than other companies, and learning this process is important for you to be successful here, you know? So, you know, if you want to have a 9 out of 10 close rate, this is how to do it. If you want to have a 3 out of 10 close rate or a 2 out of 10 close rate, then just keep doing what other companies do. We'll give you a lead, you call them for 3 minutes, you get off the phone, you show up 3 days later, you meet them for the first time, you try to get their money, they tell you no, they say they were getting other quotes, they say, okay, we're going to think about it. They get you off their property because they don't know who the fuck you are. You just showed up to try to take their money. That's it. You just showed up. You don't care about them. You didn't call them. You didn't show them that you cared. You didn't show them that you're compassionate and that you're interested in design and that you're interested in their happiness. You didn't show them any of that. So you just show up at their house trying to take their money, and they're now on defense because well, you're there to take something from them. You don't care about them. Just like if you went on a date with a girl for the first time and all you wanted to do was have a one-night stand, and she's trying to get married, she's trying to make a decision that's real, and you're there to get something from her. That's what these consultations feel like to the homeowners when you treat them that way. When you treat them like a number, when you treat them like the other companies. That's why they tell you, oh, we're going to think about it. That's why they tell you, oh, we're getting other quotes. That's why they tell you, get off our property. We'll let you know what we think. Because they have no respect for you. You haven't built a relationship with them. You haven't invested emotionally in them. So no, you're not going to have any respect at a house. But if you had a video call with both of them that lasted 40 minutes before you showed up to their house, and you spent 30 minutes on the phone with the husband when he originally called, and that you have a group text going with both the husband and wife, and there's images being sent back and forth, and you show up to the house, you've now gone far above and beyond any other lighting company in the city, and they know it, and they know you care, and they know that you care about the design. You care. They know that you're not there just to get their money. They know that you're there to earn their business. They know that you are somebody they can trust. And that's how Majestic Lighting does our consults. Thank you.